on the block spitting dope. I'm off the sad in the hope. Another pack for my bro. In the hands on the low. Boys pass, but we won't. Take the trash, but we know. Gun stash in the fold. Breath flash in the cold.
The voice of the Unheard Tree, the final chapter, serves as a conclusion to both the album trilogy and studio output of Bronx-born, California-residing rapper/producer/graphic designer Al Sharp. Now the question that usually comes to my mind when I hear the term final album is whether the artists truly said everything they had to say about their life and the world around it before gracefully bowing out. And in the genre of rap music, the possibility of a comeback album like Slick Rick's latest release Victory, or even a posthumous album like Mac Miller's Balloonerism is almost certain to happen. But whether this is truly the end of Al's music career or a new beginning doesn't matter at this point. What matters is if this new record of his is worth listening to or not. Al called this album a full-blown salute to the golden age of hip-hop, crafted to bridge the raw soul of the 90s and 2000s with the energy of today. And on the opening track, Introduction, it's as if Al's peers expected that from him after listening to the voice of the Unheard 2, as we hear them leave brief voice messages, encouraging him to lay waste to whack rappers and wannabe gangsters throughout this record. With the tone now established, Al gets to work on the first song on this album, U-Turn. Over a dark instrumental set to icy piano keys and a menacing rumble laced over the bass line, Al delivers an extended verse where the word turn appears on numerous bars. He applies a similar word incorporation on the track Used To, which appears on the second half of this album. There, he utilizes the term used to on nearly every line of that song, and over a beat that sounds just as gritty as U-Turn, with its kick and snare loop completely enveloped by crunchy, distorted bass. Both songs complement each other remarkably well, as they touch on the mindset Al had to adopt to survive the harsh socioeconomic conditions of the Bronx that continue to fuel his music. Even more remarkable is how they managed to transcend themselves from being mere tough guy in the hood songs by highlighting a sense of resilience amidst the turbulence, as emphasizing a bar on the hook for Used To, where Al spits, "This is God's part, never slant your nose at me." The track Rush that appears after U-Turn is a rare moment on the album where that resilience is celebrated. Even its instrumental that, to me, evokes the soulfulness of 2000s era Just Blaze production has a triumphant sound to it. And I love its balance of light, airy keyboard notes and hard-hitting drums, which certainly embodies the feeling of success through struggle expressed quite passionately through Al's bars. And as someone who still considers All We Got Is Us to be Onyx's best record, I admire Al's inclusion of that album title in the chorus. Yonkers rapper Donny Rose, one of a small group of guest stars, matches Al's enthusiasm with a well-written and delivered verse that includes some of my favorite lyrical moments on this album. Now, I already covered the following track, 93 Woo, featuring UK rapper Crusader, in a recent review, so I won't waste my time repeating my thoughts on it. I will say that it is easily one of the album's best songs. What made me love 93 Woo even more is the skit preceding it. Not just because it harkens back to the martial arts film samples RZA added to the Wu-Tang Clan's group and solo albums, but because I'm familiar with the Pai Mei/Silver Fox voice delivering the lines. Though I still don't know the name of the English voice actor, his voice alone has become synonymous with classic Shaw Brothers films like Executioners from Shaolin and Clan of the White Lotus. And yes, hearing him on this album always brings a smile to my face every time I listen to this skit. And how it segues into 93 Woo with the mention of two swordsmen, one of whom makes his presence known in a blink and a miss moment, is a stroke of pure genius. Speaking of Wu-Tang, I took notice of both the instrumental and tracklist placement of the following song, Fingers Shine, as I don't think it's a coincidence that it sounds eerily similar to the post-Anthony Wu-Tang production styles RZA and Wu-Fam producers like Fourth Disciple applied to albums like Iron Man and Wu-Tang Forever. Billed as a brief intermission on the album, Fingers Shine is the only song that doesn't include Al Sharp. Instead, Bronx rapper Fingers is given the opportunity to shine, albeit in a very short space of time. As to be expected, Fingers bodies the track's Wu-Tang inspired beat and even drops some of the hardest bars I've heard in a song all year. Before the aforementioned U-Turn, the album treats us to a trio of bangers, starting with Popovich featuring SoCal rapper ROBG. Over a stripped down, minimalist beat driven by head nod inducing drums and a DJ scratch, they perform a good old-fashioned bar fest laced with quotables like the following from ROBG. This book of mine relate to my life, I need my paper back. I see what you did there. Catch a Body is every bit as cold-blooded as its title. From Al's murderous bars to the instrumental that sounds like the type of nocturnal, spooky production rappers like Westside Gunn and Benny the Butcher usually hop on in their records. But the best of this banger trio is easily Knives, which features one of my favorite beats on the record with its wary horns, string flourishes, and neck-snapping drum beat. A fiery verse from Al on the second half of the song, and a stellar verse from Baltimore lyricist Life the Oracle. Both rappers based their verses on, to quote the great Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 2, Judgment Day, knives and stabbing weapons. Life comes through with some of the album's stand-up bars in the process, one of which is the harshest diss, both intentional and unintentional, at a particular demographic of YouTube music content creators I've ever heard. We then get an overtime reunion of sorts as Al reteams with West Coast rapper A Sugar after the 2024 debut EP for the track Who You With, that literally sounds like dirty building shit, as Al describes the song on the intro. The beat is so incredibly grimy, both rappers spend its duration taking shots at fake thugs, snitches, and dudes in general who constantly put themselves in the way of Al's and A Sugar's respective hustles. The griminess continues on the following track, Shootouts, where, after its preceding skit, Al starts his verse an exact second after the track begins. As the title suggests, this song is primarily about Al and fellow Bronx MC Mo Grease staying ready for possible conflict or war against their rivals. In Al's case, he mostly raps about his observations and how hot his block has become with the arrival of some trigger-happy hustlers. In regards to this epidemic, Mo, by comparison, raps from a more responsive, get-shit-done perspective. And as dark and tense-filled of a track Shootouts is, Mo's line, "Or like a Drizzy fan, I be blasting the Drake," still gets a chuckle out of me every time I hear it. The album's darkness reaches its apex on the penultimate song, Swine. Al is at his most enraged and unhinged at this point, delivering a visceral lyrical assault on certain black activists who aren't as real or supportive of the community as they claim to be. For some strange reason, the character of Brother Muzone from The Wire, the greatest TV show ever made, point blank period, always pops up in my mind every time I hear this track. And that's before we get to the cleverly used snippet from the comedy classic, Let's Be Honest with Ourselves Folks, Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. The two-part production on Swine is by far the darkest on the record, with its thumping bass lines and horror movie-inspired synth leads. Ultimately, this song won't be for everyone. But then again, it wasn't designed to be. It's white-hot rage, it's definitely felt from start to end, and I guarantee that it will stay with you long after the song ends. Preceding the outro, which consists of the same boom-bap instrumental used on Introduction, is the album's final song, Soul Slap, whose title becomes more and more appropriate when you really think about it. The poignant 70s soul sample production presented on this track alleviates the harsh sensations left behind by Swine, and yet the anger exhibited by Al on that track has subsided a bit. With Soul Slap being the album's and quite possibly Al's final song, our host unleashes a final salvo at all the haters and frauds who pretty much fueled the entirety of his material on this record. I love how Al's disgust and wariness are contrasted with a pivotal scene from the late great John Singleton's Baby Boy, where Ving Rhames exits his girlfriend's house after viciously attacking her son, played by Tyrese Gibson. Now the context behind this scene is that Ving was an ex-con, and despite how furious he was at Tyrese, get furious because Tyrese will later appear in Too Fast and Furious, which John Singleton also directed, but whatever. He's not going to jeopardize his life and relationship with Tyrese's mom by beating him to death. As the final song in the final chapter of the Voice of the Unheard series, Soul Slap makes for a truly effective send-off. It may not be the last time we hear from Al Sharp, I for one certainly hope not, but he's clearly reached a point in his life and career where talking down to these haters and frauds is pointless. On the bright side, the aforementioned outro leaves the possibility of a new Al Sharp project open, where all they may take is a charge of inspiration, positive or negative, to get him back into the booth. Overall, the voice of the Unheard tree, the final chapter, is not only a fitting conclusion to Al's album trilogy, but it's one of the best rap albums I've heard this year. It's pure, raw, unapologetic, hardcore hip-hop comparable to the continually praised output of both Griselda Records and Conway the Machine's Drumwork label. And that's coming from someone who continually listens to their records. Unlike the works of Griselda and Drumwork, this album definitely feels like a tribute to the undeniable authenticity of East and West Coast rap sounds and artists of yesteryear. It also doesn't overstay its welcome thanks to its tight, concise, filler-free and BS-free runtime. And if this is indeed Al's denouement before exiting the stage, he certainly went out on his own terms. In short, to reiterate and slightly expand on what I said at the end of my 9-3 Wu review, if you're a Wu fan, Wu stan, East Coast rap fan, West Coast rap fan, and general hip-hop head, the voice of the Unheard tree is absolutely worth the listen. That's why I'm giving this album a light 4.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the voice of the Unheard tree, the final chapter. If you've given this album a listen, feel free to share your thoughts on it along with your favorite tracks from it in the comment section to this video. And yeah, it's a wrap.